Hello everybody, welcome back. This video is on the Anycubic Photon. I had a little bit more time to spend with this machine. I had a few hurdles and roadblocks that I ran into when trying to get up and running. The first thing I ran into was the software. It would not run the software on my computer because it needed a GPU processing to run it. This computer is an old computer, so it did not run. So that was the first hurdle that I encountered. And I never installed the software. It was a photon slicing software that came with it, and I ended up going with G2Box. I'll put a link in the description down below. G2Box seems to do everything I need right now. But to start with that, G2Box would not run on the printer. The printer had an old firmware on it, and looking online, there was a solution to update the firmware. I would have hoped that they would have updated the firmware when they shipped it, but they didn't. So going online, looking on there, my version was version 3.4.2. The new version is 5.0.2. That one will allow you to run just about any file format that I needed from G2Box. The original format that was on the USB that came with this printer was a .pws, and that would only be the only format that that firmware could read. And updating the firmware, I could read the .photon files, and then things started going a little bit easier for me. So I started printing the little, I did have the little USB, so I printed the little demo thingies, but I didn't cure it right, so they started curling at the edges. You can see the little things on there weren't cured just right. But I started running into issues after I started trying to print my own things. I've noticed that when I did the little cube that they send, it failed. I did an ET, it did okay, but I would get failures. What I didn't know that there was a film on the glass that whenever it was shipping to keep it from getting scratched. I didn't see that until later on. Taking that off, I started getting better results. I started getting results that didn't fail. The Jawa was one of the first ones that I printed, but not understanding supports in the software and understanding supports inside of a resin printer, I got failure on the fingers and little few errors here and there, but not understanding the software and how the 3D printer runs and how supports work, I got a few more failures with that. As I started getting better, I ended up doing a smaller one. I didn't know, I thought it was the same size, and it came out as successful on the fingers, and these fingers are tiny, but I ended up ripping it off when I took the supports off. I got anxious, and so I got a little, I should have paced myself on clipping off the little details. My ET, this is a failure. He melted into the thing, and I guess the support didn't hold it, and he just started blobbing back into himself. When you get a failure inside of your vat or your resin, you have to go back and clean it out, clean it off, and that's bigger headache because it's messy. You have to have gloves. I had to purchase a lot of gloves, and these are sticky and messy, and a lot of paper towels. Paper towels are something else that you're going to need to look into. I started getting a little bit more success once I understood doing supports, and I'll try to link below to some of the YouTube videos that helped me out, and they were very helpful in what I needed to know. And it's just little things you're just like, oh, that's why whenever he would fail on why at that very end right there, why it failed. It was something that is pretty, once you see it becomes common sense to understand how the machine reads it, because the machine's not going to do everything for you. And the software that I was using, the G2Box, it would do only so much, but then you still had to hold its hand a little bit to get it a more successful print and reduce your error in the end. I did try to do my pumpkin head, and all the details came out, and that's what I'm happy about, is that the details are fully, it's so cool to see all the details printed out on this resin printer. But to do something simple with a flat surface onto the thing, there's a whole nother thing where they explain the suction and this or that or however it prints, but you have to have an angle. I'm still learning, and there is a little bit of some homework I need to do to understand that, and I did do my homework, and now I understand why this failed at the bottom but everything else looked perfect on the top. I'm okay with that. I now know, and once I know, I'm going to be a little bit more aware of the little hiccups that I run into in this program and the resin printer. Besides the mess, I did purchase the cure and wash. The cure and wash helped keep it helped keep everything kind of organized. I don't like a big mess, and this is already messy enough. Keeping the wash I was able to wash it fairly easy. Curing it is another easy process. You set the timer, you put it in, you let it do its thing, and the light cures it. And you can do it as long as you feel like you need to get in there, and so it gets hardened. Because without the UV light, it won't harden and it won't cure. Because you're not supposed to touch the resin as far as the caution goes, because it is a chemical and it will. But I do have the plant-based resin that I used. Had a purchase. It was the gray one, and you shake it up, put it in there, and I try to keep it clean. I try to keep it very clean because this is messy. That's messy stuff. Once it gets everywhere, you'll know when you get it on your hands once you walk out in the sunlight, and that's something that you shouldn't do. You should try to take caution. I wear my mask and wear the gloves. I try to be cautious about it. I do need to get some goggles to be fully PPE gear, all in this thing. But other than that, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to see my prints come out and come to life. I want to do a bigger pumpkin head and get it set up and optimized. Right now his head is heavy, and I did a solid model. I need to figure out a good way to hollow it out so I don't use so much resin on this big head here. The other thing is the alcohol. Well, given COVID, this is gonna be a little bit more expensive, a little harder to find too, because you can't just go to Walmart and find it now. It's always sold out when I go. So I had to order it online. It took a little longer, but it came in. That was the other thing. But the resin, and then the alcohol, and the mess, paper towels, gloves, everything else. That's what I've learned. It's not the same as a PLA. The PLA is fun too, and they both have their plus and minuses on which one I use now, because I'm now learning that if you want detail, go with the resin, and if you want bigger and a little more different, I'm going with the PLA printer. It's all been fun to learn. It's all been interesting. It's good to see bringing my ZBrush models to life and actually have a physical model on these, and just seeing how much detail you can get out of it. The detail inside of his eyes, his mouth, his wrinkles. It's so fun. It's so cool. And the leveling is another thing that I probably should have brought up too. The leveling in here, fairly easy. Once I realized that I shouldn't have had that film on there, or everything else worked really well. Once everything was set up, you're leveling, taking the film off, and keeping your vat pretty clean, and just being aware of little hiccups as far as the software goes. But I hope this video kind of is informative, because I'm still learning at the same time, but also just from using it for a couple weeks, it really opens up new opportunities to print new things and actually see my prints come to life and do fun stuff with it. But thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative. I hope you learned something from this, and I'll try to get out another video of what I end up with later down the road. Thank you for watching.